Hi, everybody. This is our third meeting of the book club, and I'm so glad to see so many people here. Although I'm going to say it has less to do with the book club and more to do with our very special guest star, Miss Kim Zimmer. For everybody who is new, just a little introduction to what's going to happen tonight. In a few minutes, I'll be turning it over to Michael Maloney. He'll be interviewing Kim. And then at the end, Miss Zimmer has very kindly offered to answer some fan questions. At the bottom of your screen, there's a little button that says reaction, has a little smiley face on it. If you guys will click on that, there's a raised hand. Click that, it'll get you in the room ready to answer your questions. And we'll just go through and let you ask whatever you want to. And so, without further ado, Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Darren, thanks so much. And Kim, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic. We have a beautiful evening here in New Jersey.
Nice. I was really glad when our readers selected your book as the next one they wanted to talk about because it holds a very special place on my shelf. And I was reviewing it, and I see that the first edition came out in 2011, but Guiding Light had gone off in 2009. I know there wasn't much I think the show's ending was announced on April 1st, 2009, and the show ended in September. So that would not have been enough time to get it out in terms of timing it. But why did you do the book when you did it?
I think it was such an emotional time for me, and I was having trouble venting my feelings from everything that I had experienced over the last probably the last 2 years of Guiding Light. Once we started doing remotes and everything, and then when the show got canceled, I had a really bad reaction to the whole thing. And I just lost my mother. I'd lost a dog. I was an emotional raw nerve. And my kids were getting older and leaving. And the whole thing was just overwhelming for me at the time. So I just started writing things down on a yellow legal pad. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and thoughts would come into my head, and I'd write them down on the legal pad. And in the morning, I'd look at them and go, "What did that mean?" So it was more for. I never intended it to be a book. It was more like a personal diary for me, just to process my feelings, so I could get rid of them, because I had a lot of negative feelings. And then my agent at the time said, "Why don't you think about, let me put you in touch with our book agents and see if it might be something you're interested in." And then one thing led to another, and that's how that all came to pass.
It's interesting you say that you were just kind of almost writing for yourself, because the book does feel deeply personal, and you go into a lot of different times about Guiding Light and other shows. And believe it or not, some actors' memoirs from daytime, they don't detail a lot of the time on the soap opera. It's about their lives and their travels and their family, which is great. But boy, you have so many great stories about Guiding Light in this book. What is your memory like? Are you pretty good with remembering specifics, or did you reach out to people and ask, say, "Hey, when was?"
I had a fantastic co-writer in Laura Morgan, who is listed on the cover of the book. She is a pro at co-writing autobiographies and memoirs with many different not Joan Van Ark, but Joan London was a big client of hers. She's done this with a lot of people. I would go to her apartment. I would bring my legal pad full of stories that I had that I had remembered and written down. And then she would interview me and she would say, how can you make this more specific? This
Right.
needs, in order to tell the story, it has to be more specific. And I said, well, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I don't want to get myself in trouble. And she said, as long as it's true, you're safe. And so that's how we progressed in our meetings together. And I would just write and write and write and write, and I would give the material to her. She would go over it, and then she would call me. We would have a sit down meeting about everything that I had written, and then she would have questions about the specifics of whatever I'd written. It was great. There was a lot of tears, a lot of
I'm
laughter,
sure.
Just tons.
I mean, this brought back tons of memories. And I mean, the internet now is such that we kind of through social media sometimes know what people have for breakfast, but back in the day, we relied on the magazines to kind of track the
Right.
lives and to help fill in the spaces and the questions we had based on things we saw on air. Is a beautiful opening with a picture of your mother, and you look so much like her, and you dedicate the book in her honor, and then also to your dad and your sister and your husband and your children. It's a beautiful dedication and a beautiful photo.
Thank you.
Can I ask
Yeah.
you
Go ahead.
the photos you chose for the book, because those are so important. I'm sure you would want to include like 100, and then the publisher will say, well, we have space for 34 or something. And there's so many personal photos here. Can you talk about the selection of the photos and how they help tell the story?
Oh boy. I am so untech savvy that when they ask me for personal pictures and
Yeah.
for me to go through my computer, because I had everything, but to try to pull it up and process it and edit it and then get a good print and whatever, that was hair raising, that whole experience. But most of it was, I don't know. It's hard to say. I
Yeah.
would tell a story, and then hopefully the picture would support that story. And I mean, they were highlights of my life. My children and my husband have always been the most important thing to me in my life. So of course there were a lot of pictures of that. Growing up with my mom and dad, that was, those were important times too. And then of course the people that I knew from Guiding Light, and to tell you the truth, I think I have a paperback copy in here somewhere. I haven't actually looked at the book in 10 years, so I can't even remember the pictures that were in it.
It's interesting to look at a book a few years later because it has the perspective of time added to it. And
Right.
you think, oh, I'm so glad I included that part. Like if that's how I find writing when I look back on it. There are so many wonderful stories. I think as kids, we've all had parties at our homes, and we're afraid our friends are going to break something. You had something very interesting where one of your daughter's friends of a friend made off with one of your Emmys.
That was the best.
That's not breaking a wine glass.
It was, oh my God, that whole experience, as awful as that evening was for not so much for us, but for these poor kids, because we made them all stay, and we questioned all of them, and it turned out that the kid who took it wasn't even a friend of anybody's. He just, how word of parties get out, and we were home. We were right in the living room. And word gets out, and parties that are supposed to be 20 people grow to 30, and people that you don't know show up, and it was someone we didn't know, and one word, little bits and pieces as we talk to people. It might have been this guy, and it might have been this girl, or it might have been this person, and so we had the police came, and they found the person, and they wanted us to press charges. And when we heard the story that he stole it so that he could put it, on the doorstep of his girlfriend who wanted to be an actress, we were like, how romantic is that?
I know. And someday, if that girl continued her career as an actress and she wins an award, she can stand up there and say, Kim Zimmer, this is the second award I ever got to hold.
Exactly.
That was
And
a very,
it was actually her father who found the Emmy and knew my name, knew that we lived in the area, and he was the one that contacted the police, and so we got it back, and it had a happy ending, and
I was watching One Life to Live when you came on as Echo, and I thought it was a great character, and I'm really enjoying the story unfold. And then it wrapped up, and those were in the days where you didn't always know why something happened with them, because by the time the magazines got it out, it'd be a couple of months later. And then I see it pop up on Guiding Light, and I'm thinking, and there was this instantaneous joy and fun and life, and I thought, I miss Echo, but I'm so glad that Kim Zimmer has found this other role. When did you realize just how special and how much fun Reva Shane was going to be?
Well, I don't know if I talk about it in the book, but I had sworn off soaps after my first experience at One Life to Live. As fabulous as it was, I was signed to a 3-year contract, and they let me go after 6 months. So I was like, that hurt, and it stung deeply. And so we were out in Los Angeles, and I was convinced I was going to pursue nighttime television and film, and then my agent sent me the breakdown for this character, and it was just too luscious to not consider it. So they sent me the breakdown for the character. AC and I discussed it because we really were ensconced in our life in Los Angeles at that time, and I was like, I really just want to go and just test for this. And I was not the first choice for the role. Pam had somebody else that she totally wanted to play the character, and Betty Ray fought for me, and Gail Colby fought for me, and they finally convinced Pam that I was to be her doppelganger.
I'm telling you, what a great story that is. What a great
we were like this. I mean, she lived through my character, I mean, in her writing. That character was as cathartic for Pam, I think, as it was for me.
Guiding Light had been going through some changes prior to Pam coming on. It was the Doug Marland era, which was very successful. Right. And after Doug left, there was some rotating writers, and fans were very unhappy.
Yes.
And many fans don't like change, and that's true. However, your time at Guiding Light is living testament to, if a team comes in and presents something new, but is totally entertaining in a totally different way, they're going to jump on that train and go for the ride. It's not change, it's bad change that viewers don't like.
Right. It was tough. I mean, I'm not going to say I kept looking for the knife in my back, but there were characters that wondered why this new family was growing and basically not taking over by any means, because that was what was so great about Guiding Light, was that they were always true to those core families. and they just, extended that to the Lewises. So I can't help it if we were all really rowdy and bigger than life, and full of fun and reckless, and I am woman, hear me roar, and we
I
shook
was
things up.
I was saying, you sure did. I was saying in a meeting just yesterday, there was and I don't know how you are when fans come up and start quoting specific scenes, but here I go. There was a scene between Reva and India in the powder room, and they really went at it, and India called Reva a lowborn gutter slut, and Reva said that's better than being a pompous blue blood any day. And our colleague at the site said, did they really say that? And the thing is, soaps used to like dive into these fierce rivalries where the gloves came off, and it was just a fantastic era. And it must have been so much fun to play scenes like that.
It was. The only thing, you couldn't say bitch, though.
Yeah.
I don't think we couldn't use that word, or whore. I mean, it was, I could say slut. I was the slut of Springfield, but there were certain words that we had great cat fights between women on that show.
Sure.
But there were still certain words that as much as you wanted to say that, you just couldn't. So I remember that scene there's a lot of things that I don't remember. I remember my scenes with Mary Kay because they were always just so much fun. She is such a terrific actress, and I really rose to the occasion when I knew I was going to get to do a scene with Mary Kay.
It was a scene where and I think Beverly McKinsey told this story about an actress at another world. She said, look, you're going to win the war, but the battle has to be interesting. And when we see two actors give and take and acknowledge that the other character might have a point, then the scene wins. And when the scene wins, everyone
and that's
wins.
So important. Yeah. You want the scene to win.
And the tag of that particular scene is India kind of going, oh, she's right. Reva's right. And I hate that she's right. And we used to get that every day, every week on soap operas. It was a golden age, and we were lucky to have it.
There's a site that I'm a member, a guiding light site.
Yeah.
And I can't think of what it's called right now, and I don't know who runs it, but they play a lot of clips, and there was a whole bloopers reel that I remember we showed at a Christmas party one year, and there was I laughed out loud, and it was like 6:00 in the morning when I was watching this. It was the scene in the nightclub when I did Tina Turner, and I was with Maeve and Beverly and Mary Kay at the table, and we were all having this luncheon, and I did not belong there at all, but I could not remember my lines to say, because it was after the Emmy nominations, and Larry Gates and I had gotten nominated, and we were so excited. So we had these scenes at this table at the Blue Orchid, and I'm trying to get through this scene, and I keep cracking up. And Beverly said, you give her an Emmy and everything falls apart or something. I don't know if I was after the Emmys or before, with that perfect Southern drawl that she said. And then later in the scene, I blew it again, and I said, I had won the Emmy, and Larry had too. I said later in the scene, I blew it again, and I said, you're not going to take my Emmy away from me, are you? And I was hysterical. I remember that day so vividly, and those were such fun days.
Were such fun days, and there was nothing like watching the Emmys for fans, because people would have multiple shows that they would watch. I mean, because we didn't have 100 choices. People would say, you don't watch all 12 shows, do you? Oh my gosh, 12 shows. Yes, I do. And when you see your favorite wins, and you see great actors win, like that's when the Emmys are at their best. You talk about how Paul Rausch was your favorite producer. And
one of them.
Yeah. What was great about Paul for you?
Paul Paul knew what he wanted. There was no namby-pambying around anything. There was no getting pushed and shoved by the network or by a head writer. If he didn't like something, it was done. If he
Right.
didn't like an actor, they were gone. If
Yep.
he didn't like a scene in a show that was being taped, it was gone. He was tough, and he was obnoxious, and uh, and he smoked cigars in the studio, and and I loved him. I just he and I could get him. I could make him laugh. I could make him. I would. I have a very big laugh, and he'd be like, "Can you just calm? Why do you have to laugh so? Why are you talking so loud? What do you think I'm deaf? Well, yeah, I know that one ear is pretty bad." You know? I would have so much fun with him, and I just really respected his knowledge of the genre. I
Yeah.
mean, he was the master, and I'm sure other people would say the same thing about Gloria Monty or Gail Colby. I love Gail Colby too. You
Sure.
know,
I mean, but
so
all three of those people have that in common. It's exactly what you said. They know what they want,
yes,
and they
yeah,
know what the soap opera viewer wants. And
right,
when you combine that with great writing, it's unbeatable.
yeah,
Um, Susan Lee, the executive at daytime executive at NBC, said that if Paul and Pam had been in place at Santa Barbara a year earlier, she's fully confident that the show would have risen in the ratings and would have had more years in it.
yeah. That was unfortunate. I don't know if I talk about it in the book or not. That unfortunately, all those actors there saw the writing on the walls, and they had all kind of checked out. They all, except for A and the really solid people, they all were like looking for new jobs. I mean, from the
Yeah.
day I started, everybody was like,
It it, it was
looking to go elsewhere.
yeah. Um, there were I kind of think of your time at Guiding Light in two different eras, and that is when Pam wrote the character and when other people wrote the character. And when Pam returned in 1987, we had seen a previous year that I'm going to say might have been more plot driven. And then when Pam came back, the next thing I know is Riva has lost Josh. She thinks Kyle is the father of Mara, which he wasn't, but she thought he was. And she throws on the red dress and goes to the country club and makes her presence known. And the women, the wives, are like saying, she's not a member, get her out. And that's when Alan steps in.
Yeah,
And
that I just got goosebumps. I just got goosebumps. Yeah,
and and he had that great line when Riva said to him, "It's over between me and Joshua." And Chris Burnell said, "And how many times has it been over between you and Josh?" And and that,
in a way, only Chris Burnell could say it.
I mean,
It
it was
just
just brilliant. And that was such an unlikely pairing because she wasn't the type of woman he fell for. She brought out the good in him, and then it
mhm.
all culminated at the country club where he lost everything. And oh, this is funny. Grant Alexander, when women slap him, he does this very smart thing where he just holds his stance and says,
Right.
"I'm sorry you're upset," which infuriates the character he's playing with and makes the scene better.
Yeah.
But, but when Reva piled into him, he moved, man. And what are some of your favorite moments from the big climaxes that played out over the years?
Well, there most of them are like moments that we all got the giggles. I mean, I remember it was close to the climax of the Infinity storyline with
Oh,
Billy when
sure.
yeah, he had the ring, the Infinity ring, and his head was wrapped because he'd been shot. He had his head wrapped in it.
But the hair is
And
seldom shaved.
he would try, and it was Peter Simon and
Yeah.
and Maeve Kincaid and me and um a serious actor, Larry and
Sure.
Robert, or I don't think Robert was on then, but oh my God, we would try so hard to get through those scenes with Jordan. And
Yeah.
it was, and most of them were that was the funny stuff. And then I remember any scene that I had with Robert, Jordan, and Larry and myself. Those were the highlights of my entire life on Guiding Light. Those scenes, we used to call them our cat on the hot tin roof scenes.
Yeah.
They were the most honestly written, honestly portrayed characters. I remember when they finally wrote Larry. Larry had passed already, and they finally had the funeral for. They finally, wrote Larry out, and we had the scenes where we were reading a letter that he'd left behind, or I can't remember the specifics of it. Somebody else probably would know it by heart, and I remember Robert and Jordan and I sitting around in Reva and Josh's living room, reading this letter, and just the three of us were just like a wreck. And then I mean I have so many, and so many that I remember, so many I don't remember. I remember this, specifically the scene when Larry Gates said to me, when I told him I was having his baby, and the look on Larry Gates's on HB's face, that whole moment too was gold, for me as an actress, for me as a person working with this incredible actor. And then another time when I had to talk about slaps, I had to slap Larry Gates, and I caught him in the ear, and I mean that's like the worst possible thing you can do to a person. I hadn't kept my hand loose, and I clocked him, and his ears were ringing for a day. So that was not good.
No. The chemistry that you get with casting and the writing, when it all dovetails into something magical, it's so, it's so special. And thank
Right.
God for YouTube, where a lot of this stuff still exists.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk about the times where you were on the show where Pam wasn't writing, and you have a sense of who Reva is, and writers, some more than others, may not, and how did you work through those periods where you wanted to keep the consistency of the character for yourself and the fans, which you've always been a champion of? How would times like that work? Were they challenging?
They were very challenging.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer in our job is to make it work, and we're not being paid to write it. I know on other shows there's other actors, I won't name any of them, but there's a lot of actors who you'll show up in the morning and they will have totally rewritten a scene. And I don't believe in that. I believe that you can tweak the dialogue, but if a new head writer is taking a character in a direction that may not be one you're happy about, you're being paid a lot of money to make it work. And as much as I hated that, that's what I lived by, that credo, was that it's my job to make it work. I'm not being paid to write it. They'll see that it's not working, when it's out there and the fans have a reaction to it.
Yes, and
But that's not my job. I'm not being paid to do that job.
And I have heard stories about actors changing it on a given day, and I thought, but what about tomorrow's script and the next day? They've
Exactly.
out. So
Exactly.
one day you're going to be after changing them all. I was I'm not going to say the name of the show, but I was working at a show in 1990 when you were nominated and you were about to leave the show, and they showed the clips, and I'm sitting there in the office and I said, oh, Kim Zimmer's got this. Like, I saw the clips. It was when she confronted the man who had not raped her, but kind of molested her.
Yes.
And it was so raw and so powerful.
Mhm.
And when you won, I wasn't surprised at all. Were there any wins that surprised you that you won, or were there times that you thought you might have won and for some reason didn't?
Well, I think I talk about it in my book, is the year Susan Lucci won her first Emmy. I thought that was a year I thought I was a lock on that, even though it was the clone story, and
Yeah.
it was not a story people liked, but that was some of the hardest,
I
most
bet.
rewarding work that I had ever done on the show, seriously. And I really, I so believed in that, talk about a bizarre story that I was like, I've got to find a way to make this work.
Yeah.
And I felt like that myself and everybody else who had to deal with the clone supported that story, and we did the best possible job that we could. And I felt very confident that year that it was, I was going to win. And I mean, I was thrilled for Susan. I'm so glad that she finally won, because it wasn't about her losing again. I mean, she finally won. We can go move on now. So that was really my wins. Were my first win, of course, was a total shock, because I was, it was Robin Strasser, Deirdre Hall, Jillian Spencer, who else was
Susan Lucci.
Susan Lucci, yeah. And that was I think you can see in the clip of me winning that was a total surprise. I did not expect that at all.
I heard a story once where Strasser said to you either before or after the show, "Oh, this was yours all along."
Right. I loved her. I mean, I haven't seen her in years or spoken.
It's a wonderful community, and it's so nice
Yeah.
when actors support each other and say, "This is your year."
Right. And that's what I said to Watros the year she won too. I was like, I don't know if I said it to her, but I said it to myself. This is Cynthia's year. She's got this.
I was always surprised that her performance on the witness stand, where she got found out, that wasn't on the reel for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, what
No,
she
it was when she tore Cross Creek apart.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
clearly a winner.
Yeah.
You talk about how you're refreshingly honest in your interviews, which I've always found, and you are in the book as well. And you really went into a lot about PPAC. And I had mixed feelings as a viewer at that time, because on one hand, I really liked the direction Jill Hurst was taking the show. And on the other, I mean, there was a scene I was watching when Reba was in the hospital, and when they cut to one angle, you're in frame, and then we cut to the other angle, and the camera was literally shaking. And that it was hard for the viewers to watch, and it must have been hard for the actors. On one hand, the show is continuing and we're staying alive here, but on the other, there's nothing like a beautifully framed shot from the 80s, 90s that's just captures the face and the emotion. You wanted to
go ahead.
Well, why did you want to bring all those stories to the book? Did you feel that was the right thing to do?
Again, that was purging for me. I was so unhappy that whole time. I mean, I remember a perfect example of that was when Jeffrey O'Neill was finally confessing his love for Reva. We were in PPAC. We were outside. We were on this little covered bridge, this bridge, and the sound didn't work. So you never. My problem is that I watched the show. I never should have watched the show during those years. That was my problem. And people would tell me that. They'd say, "Why do you watch? Don't do that to yourself. Stop watching." But I was a fan. I was a fan of the show. And
Right.
so I remember I was in my dressing room and I was watching the show in my dressing room, and that scene came on, and he's getting ready to confess his love for Riva, and they cut away to a flag flapping, a little like Memorial Day flag flapping in the wind, because they didn't have the sound. And in the edit, they had to put they went to this little flag, and I screamed. I was like, oh my God. And that was one of the days I talk about, when I went up to the third floor, wherever they were, and doors were slamming and people were hiding. And
Well, on behalf of every Guiding Light viewer everywhere, God bless you and thank you for caring, because we all think that like everyone should and that everyone does. And just in fairness, I mean, I do remember some days in PPAC, like when Natalia rather, like left Frank at the altar and walked across in the snow to the gazebo. That looked like a movie, and that was beautiful.
oh
I mean,
yeah, there were great gifts from God or whoever you believe that happened on those outside locations. And then there were other days where you'd have the same day in an episode, and there'd be 3 inches of snow, and the next day the sun would be out and everybody's sweating. I mean, it was, you couldn't, because we shot on so many different days one episode when we were on location. So you
Just
had
like-
you had those days too.
just like those poor guys doing Hallmark movies in July, where it's like, they're
Yes. Wearing the
Christmas
big
Miracle,
woolly
wearing the
coats.
wool coats. I would like to open this up to some of our attendees who I'm sure have questions as well. And I think there's a raise your hand feature. That if somebody-
There is, and you have to have your camera on, because for some reason it will not let us do it without your camera on. So Wendy, you are first up, if you can put your camera on.
Okay. I don't know if it's,
Hi, Wendy. We
is
Add
it working?
Video.
Yeah,
We can hear you.
Okay.
Well, we could just not, maybe as long as we can hear you, like maybe
Yeah.
we won't
What-
spotlight you, but you can ask your question. Let's try that.
Okay. Well, Kim, I met you years ago in New Jersey at a bookstore when you were signing your books, and I am a longtime fan. What are you up to now, other than being a grandma?
Are you a grandma by any chance?
Yes, I am.
Well, then you know how. Then you know
I am.
how.
I have two grandkids.
You know how all-consuming that is. We just had our 5th grandchild.
Wow.
So, and they're in 3 different areas of the United States, and so we're busy. I still do theater, and I actually did a film that my daughter-in-law, my son Jake Weary's wife, produced and helped write, called "You Sing Loud, I Sing Louder" with Ewan McGregor. It hasn't gotten distribution yet, but they're still pushing it along. And I did a small role in that. That was fun. And I still do theater. I still tread the boards a little bit, but other than that, I'm perfectly happy being a grandma.
Well, thank you. That's great.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy. And who do we have who's next? David. Oh, you have to unmute.
I did. I'm sorry.
There you
I'm just
go.
a little nervous. I apologize. I'm just very nervous.
David, have we met
as
before? You look familiar.
I was on the Locker Room, was a game show thing, the Ellen Lock.
Oh,
not
okay.
Locker Room.
Because
Not that it was somebody else. It was a game show thing that I was on.
Right.
No, what's his name? The other, I can't think of his name. Not Ellen.
Michael
Fairman.
Fairman.
Michael
Yeah.
Fairman. We did it like a game show thing, and I won twice.
Yes.
Because I have this odd knowledge of soap operas, like
Right.
like
I
literally-
remember you.
Oh, thank you. I'm just like very nervous. I'm sorry. Because I like just literally this morning was watching an episode this afternoon, an episode from The Doctors, circa January 1980.
Yes.
So I'm like literally I was been watching The Doctors as it was on retro, and then we were waiting for those 1980 episodes. So I know your exact, like August 1979 you started. I know dates. Like you started
Wow.
November 1983 on Guiding Light, and you were from March. It's too much. Anyway, I don't want to keep babbling because I'm like babbling and people are waiting. What are you? No, because I'm like Nola Dempsey Reardon, I'm getting the tone Nolas mixed up. Anyway, I just literally saw you, so I'm sorry. I'm having a little like moment that I did with Barbara Eden in 1991. Anyway, I remember at 50 years old. Anyway, sorry. No, I did. I met her in Philadelphia. Anyway, I'm from Philadelphia, by the way. Hope you didn't get hurt in the storm yesterday with that stuff. What are your funniest memories of the doctors? Because I know all your work. You're designing women work in 1988. Sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize. I'm going goofy.
That's okay. There's one moment in particular I remember when because it was one of my very first soaps. I'd done like a guest spot on One Life to Live, and I'd done a little thing on One Life, but the Doctors was really my first big show, and I was doing a scene, and I was mad at Frank Telfer, Luke, my brother on the show, and Barney, my dad, and I went to storm out of the bar, and I grabbed the doorknob, and I went to open the door, and that whole side of the set fell over, and I kept going because I'd been told that you don't stop for anything, because they shot it almost as if it was live in those days. So I just kept talking, and I got up and dusted myself off and walked over the set piece and made my exit. They're like, cut. That's probably one of my biggest memories. And then my other memories are just party scenes where the whole cast was together in a scene, and we
And the farting with Liz Hubbard.
yes exactly.
Sorry, I don't mean to know. So I feel like
no, but that's true. That
Thank you very much. Mazel tov on the grandchildren.
Thank you, David. Good to see you.
Kim, you said in the book, you asked Liz Hubbard how she manages to like be so interested and interesting in the group party scenes, and her response to you was hilarious.
Well, that's what you didn't hear, David. He just said it.
Yeah.
He said, and Liz Hubbard farting. And it was not Liz Hubbard farting. It was Liz Hubbard would try to figure out who had passed the gas in the scene.
And I've seen party scenes since, and I'm just walking around, and hopefully people find me interesting. Hi, Elaine.
Yes.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Your background.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I love your background.
Oh, thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here. My mom and I watched Guiding Light 37 years, whatever. And we were lucky enough to meet you and Robert and the cast of Farewells for Springfield in Connecticut at Mohegan Sun. And I have to tell you, it was one of the biggest thrills of our lives, because every cast member was so gracious and patient, and they were just lovely people.
Thank you.
And when we got to meet you and Robert, it was like, and I think I hugged you, Kim, and I probably scared the hell out of me, because I was just like, I am so excited. I mean,
it's
I was just so excited.
I'm sure I wasn't scared. I'm sure I embraced it.
But we really had a great time, and I just wanted you to know, I don't know if celebrities, if they really know how much they touch people's lives, because you helped me through a difficult, we helped a lot of people probably through difficult times, just being in their living room every day, something they could count on. And it was hard.
And that's the difference with daytime, is that we are we're in your home. We're not on a movie. We're not in a movie theater. We're not on your television one day a week, one night a week. We're 5 days a week in your living room with you on your couch.
Right. Yeah. It
really makes a big difference.
It does. It does. Okay. So my question is, are you going to be writing another book?
I keep thinking about writing something totally different, something like, I've had a couple of ideas that, they always hit me in the middle of the night, and I never get up and write them down. I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see.
Yeah. I hope you
But
do.
thank you.
I really do. Yes.
Thanks.
This is excellent. I love it. And I wish I had seen it so you could autograph this for me. But I love
Aw.
it.
Well, maybe we'll run. Where do you live?
In Massachusetts.
Oh, well, anywhere near Great Barrington?
No, I'm in Westwood.
okay.
I'm more near Boston.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I'm in that area a lot. And if we ran into
you
each
really?
other, yeah.
Great.
Nice
We
to
could
see you,
do-
Elaine.
Nice to see
yeah.
you too. Thank you, Kim. Thank you.
Thanks. Jacob.
Jacob. Oh, you have to just hit the unmute.
Did it work?
Yep.
There. Yes.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Hi. Good.
Good. Hey, I met you when I was 7. So
Oh my
I just, yes.
Wow.
I was at a nightclub in New York City. We somehow snuck me in so I could meet three of us.
Jeez, really?
Yes. Yeah, my parents super responsible.
Wait, how
Like,
old are you now? So how long ago was that?
I'm 26, so it was 2004.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But I just have a question, please.
Uh-huh.
How did you feel about the later supernatural storylines, if we can call them that? So whether it be the clone or time traveling or being a psychic.
The psychic thing, like I was talking earlier, you get these scripts and these ideas and you have to make them work. That's your job.
Mhm.
The psychic thing was a little strange for me. The clone thing I loved because I got to play 2 different characters and it challenged me every day. I was learning anywhere from 40 to 70 pages of dialogue every night.
Oh my.
And that was incredible for me as an actor. The time travel story I loved doing only because I loved seeing Josh's different characters.
Yeah.
I had to be the same character all the time, but
Mhm.
Robert and Crystal Chappelle and Ron Raines got to be all these different characters, and I was so entertained every day I went to work. So I really
Yes.
enjoyed that story, and we used to laugh how we'd have to stick our hand through the
Yeah.
through Crystal Chappelle's
through.
breasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun.
Well, good. Well, that's when I came on board as a little 7-year-old.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Thanks, Jacob.
Uh-huh.
Sweet. And Jacob, I think you win the best lighting award.
Oh, thanks.
Beverly. Oh my God, I went to college with this beautiful woman. AC, look, it's Beverly. Where are you, hon? Look, have you unmuted yet?
Yes, I have.
Look,
And you look great. Hi. Hi, AC. Hi, you guys. I wanted to ask about Jake. I have seen him in several movies. He's phenomenal.
Thank
What
you.
advice did you give to him? Did he come and tell you that he wanted to be an actor?
Yeah. He, on his 13th birthday, I mean, we have different conflicting stories. I said that on his 13th birthday, he asked for a headshot and an agent. And what did you think he?
No, for Christmas, he said, I said, what do you want for Christmas? He says, I want an agent. I said, we'll get you a headshot.
And then it was Alan Locker, who was our publicist on the show at the time, who, pre-read scripts, and he saw this little role that was coming up on the show. And he said, if you want him to, he has to come in and he has to audition. And I'd said that. I said or AC did or something. He has to audition, and he did, and he got the job. Wow. And he played a scene with me and Laura Wright, the girl who plays my sister on the show. And I was more nervous than he was. It was freaky, but yeah, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
Your kids are all grown up.
They are. It's crazy.
Like doctors, lawyers. I mean, geez.
All of those things.
Yeah. Wow.
Good to see you both. Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, you bet, Bev. Good to see you. Wow.
Beverly, that's great. Yeah. And Charlie, I think it's your birthday today, Charlie. Can you unmute?
Yes, sir.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Charlie. Happy birthday to you. I'm no Marilyn Monroe, but there you go.
That's the best birthday song I've ever had.
Oh, you're sweet.
Thank you.
You bet.
Wow, that's a lot. My grandmother started watching, or listening in 1937,
Oh, wow.
Wow.
and we took her to the Say Goodbye to Guiding Light
Right.
event in
So on
Atlanta,
Springfield. Uh-huh.
and she didn't get to see you.
Where were you?
We were in Atlanta, but she didn't get to see you. But
Oh.
the company sent a 8x10 autograph from you,
Oh,
and she
good.
died in January of 2010, and she was my guiding light. And we
Oh,
watched the show for many, many years together. And it is my birthday, and it is just, I don't have a question. It's just a joy to speak to you
oh, you're
and
so
to tell
sweet.
you that you are my favorite actress of all
Oh,
time. And my
thank
husband,
you for sharing.
yes, he
Did he
watched
ever
the show, but
watch?
he's not a big a fan as me, because he
He did
knows
watch
that
the show though.
he did a little bit.
Yeah,
And but you are my favorite, and you have
you're so
always been.
sweet.
And it's so wonderful to see you and to hear your laugh. We miss
Aw,
you on daytime television,
thank you.
and I can't wait for you to come back. And this has been the best birthday of my life, just to get to
Oh,
talk to you,
Charlie, thank you.
and
Many
it's a
more.
joy. Thank you, and I will
Many
give
more.
my time to everybody else that wants to speak to you, because you have so many fans who truly love and adore you. And thank you for this
Thanks,
evening.
Charlie. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. That was beautiful. Garen.
This is a little bit of a deep cut, so you might not have anything in the reserves, but any remembrance of working on the movie Trench Coat in Paradise?
Oh my God, yes. Oh, totally. I mean, we were in Hawaii, for God's sake. Yeah, that was Bruce Dern. I got to work with, Bruce Dern. He scared the bejesus out of me. I do remember in a scene I had with him where I had to not come on to him, but I had to kind of get in his face, and he was wearing a tie, and I grabbed his tie and started twirling it around my finger. It was just my character. He did not like that. He slapped my hand, and he didn't stop the scene, but we did the scene again, because he didn't like that I had so much control at that moment in the scene. And that was when we were on that location. AC was with me. We found out we were pregnant when we were there, and so did the actor who played Trench Coat in Paradise. I can't remember his name, from
Dirk Benedict.
Dirk Benedict. He found out that he and his wife were pregnant at the same time. Yeah. I can't hear anybody. There, now I hear you.
Awesome. Oh, Karen, hey, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Karen.
Hello from Tampa, Florida. We're running out of time, but quick question about Laura Wright. What was it like working with her, and what do you think about her career?
She came in, Laura Wright and the girl who played my other sister, Christy Farrell. Those two girls were just such a joy for me to have in my circle of family. Laura and I, Christy and I clicked immediately too. She wasn't there nearly as long as Laura was, but working with Laura was just, we felt like we were sisters. And to this day, we still, when I'm in California, we get together, we play pickleball, we go out to dinner. It's usually with Cynthia Watros and her boyfriend, and we're still very close. And I respect her. I think I'm hooked on General Hospital now, because I love watching her. And there's so many people that, and Cynthia and Maura West and Roger Horwith. I mean, there's all these East Coast actors on that show now, and I just really enjoy watching it. So I'm a big fan of Laura's.
it's a great show and they're doing a great job. And what ABC did get the rights to all the All My Children and One Life characters. So I don't know, maybe Echo de Savoy will, I don't know, be driving
Pop
through
up.
Charles and have to go to the emergency room. I'd certainly be in favor of that.
Definitely.
Good. Did we have another?
I had actually said that Karen was going to be our last one because we've kept you long enough, Kim. Thank you so
Well, you're very sweet. Thank you.
Kim,
This was so much fun.
this was so much fun. Thank you so much for today, for everything over the years. And I can't
You
wait
bet,
till
Michael.
we
It's
reach out
it's like
again.
old home week seeing Diane and you here, you know,
Isn't
in
it
front of
though?
my face.
Lots of happy memories and lots of fun times, lots of award shows, and hopefully there's a great third act coming up for everybody.
Yeah, great. I love you guys.
Love
and you're
you.
fabulous. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
Kim. Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody, for
being
coming.
fantastic. And thank you
Bye.
all for coming.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.